Hey there, sheepdoggers, and welcome to another Sheepdog Grumble Rant. Yes, that's right. I decided to call it Grumble Rant because I'm grumbling and I'm ranting. And I don't want people to take it too seriously because I'm of the opinion that all opinions are merely opinions. And you shouldn't take someone's personal opinion too seriously. If you agree with them, great. If you don't agree with them, great. If you have your own opinion on things, great. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, no one should be forced to sit and listen to someone else's opinion unless you want to. And with that in mind, if you don't want to listen to me, fuck off. Anyway, I'm gonna do the same thing as last time, and just I'll record my voice later on and then put it on with the footage of me playing Loadout. I've got a healing rocket launcher. I'm gonna try that out and try out a few other things, and yeah, just generally have a laugh. So yeah, enjoy the footage, and today we will be talking about, oh god, this is going to be fun, early access, Greenlight, Kickstarter, specifically in relation to gaming. So when I'm talking about all this, that's when I'm talking about the gaming aspect of all these things. You know, some things like Kickstarter has lots of different things. You know, it has music or board games, or I'm talking about computer gaming, and everything to do with that. And we'll also be talking a little bit about Steam and where Steam has gone since it started, and etc. So, with all that in mind, I'm going to pass it over to other Sheepdog, and we'll get going. Thank you, Sheepdog. Okay, so first off today, we're not going to be talking about free-to-play games. I'm going to do that in another one because they do annoy me. And yeah, we'll go for other stuff really. So let's start off with something slightly that's not as much important to me. We're going to talk about Kickstarter, and specifically Kickstarter in gaming. You know, computer gaming as opposed to board gaming or anything. And I have to say, like, I don't like it. Because it really does turn into this kind of nostalgia bent, you know. Instead of trying to come up with new and innovative ideas, a lot of the time, these companies are just going, "Hey, you remember that game you really liked when you were younger? Yeah, we're gonna make that game, except for we're not actually gonna kind of put any of our own stuff into it. You pay for it, and then hopefully we'll get it done for you." You know, and it's just like, well, why can't you? What if you really want to do a Kickstarter? Surely it should be something innovative and something that's not going to be backed by, you know, by investors or by just the industry. You know, something that I could see being being a good thing for Kickstarter would be like, you know, Dwarf Fortress. I mean, they've already said they're not doing Kickstarter, they're not doing, you know, kind of any kind of funding project like that, which I say to fair enough. Like, they're on their own schedule, they're taking it as they go, and that's brilliant for them. But something like Dwarf Fortress, I think, you know, is really different, and it's really doing its own thing, and that's the kind of thing that should be on Kickstarter. You know, not like a Dungeon Keeper clone, or, you know, any of those old games that you say to yourself, "Oh man, do you remember that game?" And yeah, I totally pitch money for an updated version of that game, because all it's gonna end up being is like the exact same gameplay with better graphics, and you've already played that game. You know, you've played that game. For a lot of the time, it won't live up to your expectations because, you know, you were younger, it was kind of at the time, and yeah, no, it's not going to live up to your expectations, and you spend the money on it, and then it turns out to be kind of, you know, like, not bad, but not like you remember. It turns out to be kind of crappy, or they change so much that it's not the same game, and you're pissed off because it's not the same game. So it's kind of this situation of like, you can't win when you make these promises, because if you change things so much that it's, you know, it's a different game, people are going to get pissed off with that. And if you don't change anything aside from like tweaks to graphics and stuff, then people are going to get pissed off because, you know, they've already played the damn game. And a lot of games I see, to be honest, I don't really get that involved with Kickstarter. But one example of a Kickstarter I would have backed if I'd have, you know, if I'd have been in the money at the time, would have been the Stomping Land. You know, because that seems like a really interesting idea, and I myself, I do really want to play that game. So yeah, I just think, you know, I'm not saying Kickstarter is 100% bad idea for gaming in general. You know, I think it will hopefully lead to new and innovative ideas and developers really kind of getting creative. You know, it may not always work, but you have to give these things a try, and Kickstarter is a way of doing that. I also not saying it's a good idea. You know, I think it's very, very open to exploitation by nostalgia farmers, by people who just want to copy a game, you know, and they see a popular game, like let's say DayZ, for example. You know, they see a popular game like that and they go, right, people really like that style of game, let's come up with a few quirky extra bits and stick them in this game. You know, we'll make it basically exactly the same. And yeah, let's do that and see if we can actually spend no money on it and then sell it to people, you know, later on when it's almost done. And, you know, and yeah, so many games, we'll slide straight into early access here. So many games, sorry, we'll slide right into Greenlight. So many games go Kickstarter, get funding, then go Greenlight and into early access. And it's ridiculous that it's like the people making this game are trying to get away with spending as little money as possible and earning as much as possible. You know, and then these games that have gone through Kickstarter into Greenlight and then become early access have like item stores, and it actually doesn't matter really what they do, even if it's just like if it's just like clothing and stuff like that, you know, stuff for the look of it. It's not actually like, you know, guns and etc. Still, at the end of the day, you know, being in early access and having a fucking item store is ridiculous. You know, spending real money on items, like for example Nether. I honestly don't know if Nether went through not Greenlight, through Kickstarter or not, but it went through Greenlight. It's in early access, and you can buy things from Nether. You know, you can spend your own money on it, which is fucking ridiculous. So we're going to go on to Greenlight. Yeah, Greenlight, brilliant idea. You know, Steam's such a brilliant platform to sell your games on, and having Greenlight is brilliant. You know, because these games can get the distribution they need, and the community votes for them. The problem is there's no fucking policing on it whatsoever. And I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed a giant amount of fucking turds being released. You know, like I don't know what's going on with Steam, and we'll talk about Greenlight and Steam together here, because Steam is starting to piss me off. I always had respect for Steam, even when other people were kind of, you know, bashing it years ago, and I liked it. I liked Steam, and I liked Valve as well. You know, as a company, they always seemed very in touch with gamers and and giving them what they wanted, and putting like that little bit of extra effort in to deliver them these things. And now Steam is like this huge behemoth beast that just spews out bollocks in the name of making a shit ton of money. I mean, how much money Steam must have already made is probably ridiculous. And now they're bringing out these tiny games, you know, on Greenlight that the developers get all their friends and probably fucking hire people to vote for. And then these games get released, and they're clearly absolute wank. You know, I look at them and I'm like, I can't even do a fucking unfair review of this. It's just there's nothing, you know. I don't want to buy this game. I know it's going to be just arse gravy, and yeah, and again with Steam, you know, all of these, I keep seeing these games getting released that are quite old, you know, like years and years old, but they're released and it says, you know, released May 2014, or, you know, whatever, like released on the day that it's become available. And I really do think they need to sort that shit out, because there are people out there who won't know about said games. You know, sometimes they're a bit obscure or whatever, and they get released on Steam, and it's, you know, they're acting like they were released, you know, it's a new release, just being released like recently, like and people will buy those games thinking that they're new games. I mean, you know, it's not like if they're a good game, they're a good game. It doesn't matter, and people shouldn't buy games just because they've been released and they're like, oh, new game, buy. You know, that they shouldn't do that. But there are people out there who won't do enough research into games. You know, they'll just look at a couple of pictures and then look at the description and go, oh yeah, okay, I'll get it. And, you know, that's another problem, is that people are so in the gaming community. You know, you've got kind of gamers who've been gaming a long time, who are cynical people for the most part, and they will do research into a game before buying it. And there are a lot of us out there. But with the introduction of early access with casual games. With the introduction of casual games, it's introduced so many new people who haven't had the experience of being a gamer for a long time, and, you know, it's got them into bad habits, whereby, you know, they'll accept item stores and pay money for it to be better or to look unique or whatever, and all of these practices that are making you so uncomfortable in the gaming community. You know, all of these practices of developers, you know, spending more on their PR than they do on their game and their ads, because they know that people won't give a shit and will defend the game anyway. And, you know, they can hire people to do rave reviews of the game, and people will believe that shit. You know, these things are happening, and everyone's seen them fucking happening, but nothing really gets done about it. You know, Guys of the Wolf getting Total Biscuit's review taken down. Gary's Instant getting Total Biscuit's review. Like, Total Biscuit is a great reviewer, and he's a great person to watch because he's honest, you know, and he gives his opinion, and he comprehensively shows the games. And developers realise this, and also realise that they can exploit the system, they can exploit the internet, they can exploit everything to get more people buying their games, you know, before they see a bad review they might trust. And I mean, you look at Rome 2. This is going off on a tangent, I know, but let me finish where I'm going. You look at Rome 2, and you see what they fucking did. I mean, it was horrible. Like, they lied. They put so much money into their ads and their PR, and, you know, all these reviewers were either getting fake reviews, you know, they were getting fake copies of the game that had been, you know, boosted up to look amazing and be amazing, or they just didn't play the game, or they got fucking bought off. And that's what happened with Rome 2. And I mean, what happened? You've still got loads of people protecting it, you know, random gamers who haven't played the other Total Wars, or fans who just can't let the Total War series take the heat, because, you know, they're fanatics, and they can't admit when a game is fucked and broken. And yeah, nothing really has happened with it. I mean, you know, there hasn't been like they didn't do a mass kind of fix and improvement of the game, really, because they released Caesar and Ghoul not long after, which was a shitty DLC, like stitched on campaign, kind of like, oh look, we actually have more content. And yeah, you know, so many of these things are starting to be worrying about the gaming community, because developers are like, it's like they're pushing the boundaries. to see how much, and game companies, to see how much they can get away with. You know, like an indie company will, for example, go, you know, they don't have as much to lose, so they'll push the boundaries. They'll try and do, you know, item stores and you know, kind of test things with free to play and etc, etc, etc. Maybe they're even sub companies of the big companies, like, you know, kind of like a testing ground, and then if it works, the big companies will come out with them. And yeah, you know, all this shit is really fucking disturbing, and I don't know exactly where the gaming industry is going, but it's not really looking like it's going in a good way, because they can get away with this shit now. You know, they can, like, I mean, for the most part, obviously, like, Gary's Instant obviously did not do well, and who knows how much they actually made and how successful it was, but the backlash from the community was massive. At the same time, you know, you get like people who must be in the employ, you know, like employees or just hired for PR and stuff, who will go out and just lie out, you know, barefaced lie and say like, oh no, this game actually is really good, you know, you should check it out, I really enjoyed it. And you can see the reviews. I mean, go after this video, or even now, go to Metacritic and look at the reviews for Rome 2 and for Gary's Instant. I think Gary's Instant, maybe the positive reviews have been taken down. But yeah, go and look at the reviews for Rome 2, and you'll see some fairly respected, you know, big reviewers have given like rave reviews for Rome 2, which were clearly bogus, you know, clearly full of shit. If you've played Rome 2, you can read through it and just go, what the fuck is this? What game did they fucking play? So yeah, you know, getting back, sorry, that's a long sidebar. Getting back onto Greenlight and Early Access, I don't like it. I really, really don't like it. It can ruin games, you know. Like Greenlight, fair enough. You know, if you go through Greenlight to get your, you know, for the people, you know, on Steam to vote for your game, great. But it's too exploitable, you know. They can get people voting. You know, I've seen companies offering prizes for voting on Greenlight and encouraging, and you know, it's too exploitable, and it's too easy to put out a shit game and people will buy it just because. Whereas Early Access, I think, is bad. I don't like Early Access. Paid for betas. You know, paid for alphas, paid for pre-alphas, because all you get is you get a game which isn't finished, you know. And people saying to me on my unfair reviews, you can't review a game, that's not been released yet, because it's not right, you know. I mean, it's not finished. You wouldn't review a half-finished movie. And my point here is you wouldn't ask people, you wouldn't release a half-finished movie and go, oh right, this is our movie. We don't actually have any dialogue or sound, or, you know, special effects or anything, but this is the movie. Pay for it now, and every now and then we'll release a little bit extra, you know, so then you can watch the movie with sound, and then you can watch the movie with special effects, and then you could, you know. And it's like, how the fuck would that work, you know? You can't really compare them, but yeah, you know, you wouldn't release an unfinished movie because no one would fucking watch it. And yet people are enamored with this idea of paid for beta. You know, they love that. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. Why? I mean, the reason I do early access, you know, the reason I get early access games is so I can show people footage of it, and so I can do an unfair review and say, yes, this is worth it, or no, this isn't worth it. I mean, that's part of the job of what I want to do, is get in there and show people the game before they get it themselves, so they can decide from the footage and everything. And you know, we're gonna looking at things like Rust, especially Rust. Actually, for example, you know, people have got to the point where you can wipe a server, everyone will jump on, and then within like 20 minutes to an hour, everyone's right back where they started. You know, like that's how long it takes you to get to the end game of Rust. And there is nothing else to do except for run around and murder newbies, you know, and people who've just joined, and it's like there's no entertainment there anymore. There's just one group of people who are bored, so they kill everyone, and there's another group of people who constantly get killed because they don't have a chance to get to where everyone else is, and it kills the fun for everyone. And yeah, you know, that probably would last like a week. You know, Rust a week at most, and even then, you know, I'd get bored within. Well, I got bored within, you know, the first, let's say, 6 total hours of gameplay. You know, I was done. I'd seen what I needed to see. I knew what I needed to know, and that was it. That all done. You know, there was no need for me to go back and play it, except for maybe with some friends it could be a bit of a laugh, but for the most part it doesn't engage me. And you know, it's the same with Nether. Like there's not much content in Nether, and I was thinking to myself, you know, like Nether seems quite polished, you know, and it seems like they've worked on certain things, and they've added this kind of crafting thing. But in the update notes I saw added motorbike, and that was the header for the update: added motorbike, not fixes, not gameplay, new gameplay aspects and stuff. And like, it's so clear when you look at it like that, and you're like, well, that's gimmick, you know. They're selling gimmick now, and they're going, oh, you can be an apocalyptical motorbike gang with your mates. And you know, you can form a tribe of motorbike gangs, and you can drive around and blah 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 blah. And it's just like, yeah, they're selling you fucking gimmick now. And with early access, you're going to get bored with Nether before it's released. You know, with Rust, with so many other games. Like I do quite like the DayZ standalone, but you'll get bored with that quickly because there's not anything to fucking do. You know. It's like the mod nowadays, like it is now. You know, they don't have enough content to keep people interested, so people now know all the places to get everything. They run around and kill each other. And then the DayZ standalone was released in early access. Everyone was like, "Oh, great, a new DayZ game! Basically, this will keep me entertained for as long as the mod did." And it's like, no, because you've already played DayZ, you know about it, and yeah, it's not going to last you any time at all because you're already used to the damn game, and you know, you can already run around and collect everything and so on and so forth. So it's like, it's even worse, you know, than yeah. At least they don't charge you to get like ghillie suits or like weapons or anything. That's the best thing that could be said about DayZ at the moment. I'm sure later on, when they've improved it, it will be a fun game. The problem is a lot of people will keep playing the game because they do enjoy it. It's just there's not enough content for them to keep it entertained. So every time a new bit of content comes out, they'll jump on, they'll play a shit ton of it and get bored with that content as well. And in a game development, you can't release enough content quickly enough to keep people entertained, especially when they really like the game and it's, you know, and they're playing it all the time. So, you know, for that reason, I don't like early access. You know, Kickstarter is not as bad. I will give you one example which I do like. Like, I think the game's going to fall short of expectations, and I'm going to do an unfair review on it as well, because I'm going to give my take on it, because, you know, it is a popular genre, zombie survival, and it's a strategy game in the style, kind of XCOM. and that's Dead State, which I've grabbed and I did a couple of streams on, and I'll probably do a few videos on YouTube as well. And Dead State is in early access, but the early access, like if you buy it, the early access is the first 7 days. That's it. That's how you do early access. You know, that's how you should do early access, is give them a small portion of the game so you can find bugs, and yeah. But I'd much prefer it if these companies just went back to closed betas. You know, if they really do need the testing, go back to closed betas. But I don't think they do. I just think they realise that it's a way to spend less money, because people are desperate to play these games, and they take advantage of it. They go, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna release this game early. Basically, it's full of bugs. It's not finished. There's barely any content. I'm gonna release this game, and start earning money for it now. And you know, then you can. Then you get the initial release and everyone loves it and it gets really, really hyped up. And people are saying, you know, people will say, like, this is a great game now, so it's going to be awesome later. But the thing is all of these games on early access, they're not great games now. You know, they'll last you a small amount of time. You'll get bored with them, and then you won't be able to, regardless of what you say, you won't be able to enjoy them. You know, when they release new updates, because you'll jump on, play the crap out of them for, you know, for like a really condensed amount of time, then get bored again and run around just killing people. And, you know, it's like, well, there's just not that much to it anymore. So yeah, like in conclusion, I'm gonna do a little wrap up now, I think, because there's, you know, if I keep going, it'll just be me ranting non-stop about things I've already spoken about. You know, I mean, you guys may agree with me, you may not agree with me, you know, you may think I'm talking out my arse, but there is clearly some very huge problems going on, and people are just ignoring them in the gaming industry. You know, like the people will say it's not as bad as you think. People will say, you know, it's just how things are, and a lot of the problem is casual gaming, and the amount of money in the gaming industry now means that, you know, so many aspects of the gaming industry is run and controlled by people who aren't gamers anymore. You know, game developers used to be gamers, and now a lot of them are PR managers and, you know, financial managers and ad managers. You know, they control. They can spend less money making a kind of intermediate, kind of mediocre game, and then spending more money. You know, they spend less money on the gameplay, the graphics, you know, they recycle all these old parts from older games. And then they just spend money on impressive adverts, on PR, on reviews, and, you know, and all that stuff. And they can release a shitty game or a mediocre game and make a shit ton of money, and make more money than they would if they tried to make a great game, because people don't care about the game as much as what everyone else is saying about the game, about, you know, these reviewers. And very quickly, another problem I have with Steam is it looks like the game gets to choose what quotes they put, you know, like, so they'll have review quotes for the game, and you know, it's always like they basically try and clip out, take out of context quotes from the best and most respected magazines or websites they can. And yeah, people will just look at those and go, oh, you know, that says it's pretty decent, so I'll get it. And yeah, it's not right. So yeah, I'm going off on a too much of a tangent. So basically, Greenlight can be a good idea, but people are using it wrong. Early access is just, in general, a bad idea. Either go back to closed betas where you get people testing your game for real and giving you proper feedback instead of buying the game early, or just put out a short demo of the game, you know, like a small taster, where they can find a few things and stuff. But yeah, it's detrimental in the long run, in my opinion, to your game. It's easy and quick money basically. Kickstarter, Greenlight is bad for the most part, I think. Depending, I think too much crap is coming through, and it's too exploitable. Steam needs to sort their shit out. It's getting ridiculous, and yeah, Kickstarter, as I said, you know, it's a decent system, but it's being used for the wrong purposes. It's people are backing things that they shouldn't really be backing. You know, it's not about innovation, it's about nostalgia and recycling old things again. So, there you go, guys. That is Sheepdog's Grumble Rant on Greenlight, Early Access, Kickstarter, and a little bit of Steam. And also a slightly vehement rant about the state of the gaming industry that I wasn't expecting to do. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I imagine you probably didn't. The last one didn't get as much hate as I expected it to, but it still got hate. So yeah, I'm expecting more hate as time goes on for these Grumble Rants. But hey, what are you gonna do? So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.